Chapter 32 is absolutely insane, and honestly, I think it's the best chapter ever. And yep, at least for the next few minutes, there's something we need to talk about, and maybe some of us haven't noticed this. But before that, first and foremost, for the umpteenth time, our predictions about Code are truly hard to believe. I mean, out of all the scenarios we've predicted about how Code would appear, or whether Code would intervene in the middle of a situation we even thought was the perfect time for Code to show up, unfortunately, none of it matched our expectations. Because even though we initially suspected the Code would appear when Mamushi was truly defeated and he took his togedama, the reality is we can't really underestimate Mamushi. And of course, should we be disappointed that the Code didn't appear in this chapter? It doesn't seem like we should be, because after all, this chapter was truly very exciting, especially, as I just mentioned, Mamushi, whom we thought would lose easily, and who was even destroyed by Damon in the early panels in significant numbers, ended up with a plot twist we truly never saw coming. With only about 50 remaining, which should have been wiped out in a single final attack, he instead ended up splitting into more and more bodies until reaching 1,000, and crazily, that number kept rising. And my honest reaction to this panel, do you think this is like Mamushi's plot armor? And most importantly, did Koji know this was going to happen? And on the other hand, did Boruto saving Kobu, who according to Koji was supposed to die, cause a shift or even make the future branch out further? So to answer some of these questions, maybe we should start with Sarata, because after all, I think Sarata is the crucial point in the final phase that determines the outcome of this Mamushi invasion, right? After we previously saw how Sarata used Ohirume in the middle of Konoha village to destroy Mamushi, who was trying to harm the villagers, Sarata appeared quite exhausted afterward, and her vision became blurry. And even if we look at these two panels as well, these are panels after Sarata used her MS, and also the final panel in chapter 31. The Sarata we see appears to lose focus with her vision looking blurry, or even almost blind. Yet, in the final panel, she actually looks completely fine. Whether this is a coincidence or a drawing error, it certainly piques our curiosity. And has Sarata actually mastered some recovery techniques or jutsu? Even if they aren't fully perfected yet, because the first time Sarata used her MS ability in the middle of the desert to destroy Ryu, she ended up completely unconscious with her eyes bleeding. And of course, if we compare these two panels again, I think the explosive power or even the output is the same, right? It's just that the end results are quite different. And perhaps the point here is that there are many aspects or even characters worth suspecting. And one of those people is, of course, Kashin Koji. But before that, if we briefly revisit some recent cases, believe it or not, this should be a major source of doubt or even a big question mark for Boruto regarding Kashin Koji himself. And even though we know this chapter confirms that Inojin cut off his connection to some team members, which prevented Shikamaru from learning that Sarata had already activated her MS, does that mean this was part of Kashin Koji's plan? Or was it actually beyond Kashin Koji's control? And after thinking it through, plus trying to find the most plausible answer in this case, it's actually quite complex. In other words, the biggest factor in the failure to end Mamushi's invasion in chapter 32 was purely a technical error caused by miscommunication, resulting from Kashin Koji's plan to cut off communication so Inojin could transfer into Kobu's body to save Shikamaru. Is that right? But unfortunately, Koji, who assumed that killing Kobu would be a quick resolution, ended up in a complicated situation after Inojin refused to sacrifice Kobu just to maintain Shikamaru's position as Hokage. Or more precisely, considering moral and ethical considerations, Inojin was forced to reject Koji's plan. And the key or interesting point is, what if Koji actually lost his options, or more accurately, he lost his chance, and ended up with nothing? And simply put, what if Koji knew that he failed to kill Kobu, so instead Sarata would have to be sacrificed? Or perhaps he didn't even know that at all? I know this might still be hard to grasp easily, so let me explain it one more time. In the mission in chapter 31, when Koji wanted Kobu to die, Inojin, who should have immediately released his technique and let Kobu die, instead dragged things out longer and longer. As a result, the communication that should have been reestablished quickly ended up taking longer, causing some crucial information to be missed, right? Kobu didn't end up dying, and some important information like Sarata's was missed. At this point, Koji had lost the opportunity or advantage to kill Kobu. Ultimately, the initial plan, which was supposed to save Shikamaru's position, ended up being nothing more than a temporary delay. Because, as you saw after Boruto saved Kobu, Kobu let Shikamaru finish his job first. But as for the integration issue, it will still be addressed at a later time. And try to imagine, what if Koji himself had forcibly taken control of Inojin's influence over Kobu's consciousness earlier? Because, as you can see, I truly never expected that if Koji had full control over Inojin's technique, if, from the very beginning, Koji hadn't gone to all that trouble and just let Inojin be stubborn, Kobu's death could have been shorter, restoring team communication and ensuring Koji didn't lose any advantage or anything like that in the next mission, right? And at least these two things can be fully considered factors in the failure of this mission. Oh yeah, even though some of you might think this isn't a complete failure, at least with the increasing number of mamushi combined with Sarata's critical condition, that's enough for us to consider it a failure, right? First, Koji. I don't know what he was thinking up to this point, but if Koji hadn't delayed or had even forcibly used the release technique on Inojin to get to Kobu, communication should have been established quickly and some information wouldn't have been missed. Second, I know this might be a bit controversial or something, but honestly, I'm not a Sarata hater, meaning we can attribute this factor to Sarata's own negligence. In other words, she can't control herself and doesn't know her body's limits, especially regarding the use of Ohirume. Let's say if she hadn't been so overconfident and realized she'd already used that ability before, there might have been a much more reasonable plan while waiting for Sarata to fully recover, right? And as a final conclusion, Chapter 32 isn't just about a massive battle or the number of mamushi suddenly reaching over 1,000. It goes deeper than that. It's about small mistakes leading to major consequences. Because we look at the big picture, the failure to stop the mamushi invasion in this chapter isn't entirely because the enemy was too strong, but more due to a series of decisions that didn't go according to plan. First, from Kashin Koji's perspective. He might have seen many possible futures, but that doesn't mean everything he planned would go perfectly. In fact, here we see that one small moment when he didn't immediately take control from Inojin led to a massive domino effect. Communication was cut off for longer, crucial information was missed, and ultimately the strategy fell apart. Second, from Sarata Uchiha's perspective. This isn't about her being weak, but more about timing and control. Forcing the use of MS and Ohirume without considering her own physical condition backfired. On one hand, she managed to save many people, but on the other, she also left a huge opening at a crucial moment. And most interestingly, all of this happened just as Boruto Uzumaki made a decision that went against the original plan, saving Kobu, a decision that is morally right, but strategically it could actually trigger an even more chaotic future. Because believe it or not, this is exactly what I said at the beginning. Shikamaru's problem with Kobu has merely been postponed. So is this a failure? Yes. At least for now, we can consider this a partial failure, because the enemy isn't just undefeated, it's actually become far more dangerous. And at this point, the biggest question is no longer who will win, but is everything that's happening truly beyond Koji's predictions? Or is this actually a future path he deliberately allowed to unfold? Because if the answer is the latter, so in the worst case scenario, someone will have to be sacrificed. And now that choice might be getting closer. But who is it? I think you can guess. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, help me get 100 likes or 1K hype points. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye bye, Data Bio.